Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in today with me, William Wallace for America, and today I'm with Louisiana State Representative Danny McCormick. Danny, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you. Glad to be
Appreciate
here.
it. Now, I usually ask people what their district is, but I just got to say it's number one.
Number one.
So do you make any jokes about that at this?
I'm number one.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
What I am. That's it.
you could just so when the voting happens, you can say, "Whoa, wait, everybody, y'all do it because I'm number one."
And that's number one. I'm number one. I go first all the time.
Oh, do you really?
No, no, not really.
I'll have to tell Clay that.
There you go. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Well, my goal of my show is to travel around the state, talk to legislators, find out what they're doing in there, and be able to give people a chance to really, learn about not only more about our state, the things that are going on in the legislature, but about the other areas in our state that you don't even think about. Like when I found out where Danny was from, the name of it is
Oil City.
Oil City, and I got to tell you, I'd heard about Oil City, but it's like so far long ago that I was like, oh wow, that place.
Yeah.
Where is Oil City? Where's your district? And give everybody like a visual of where it is.
My district is North Bossier Parish and North Caddo Parish, where the Oil City is located. Runs down the west side of Caddo Parish, all the way down to DeSoto Parish. It's geographically speaking, it's bigger than the other 7 or 8 districts right below it. And it's large because it's mostly rural.
Now, does it start right up in the corner of the state?
You bet. It borders Texas on the west and Arkansas on the north.
So in your district, you could literally go to the northwest corner of the state and stand in that, and that's where your district starts.
That's it. That's right.
What makes up Oil City? What kind of? I mean, geographically, I guess is what makes it up, and also what kind of products do they have up there?
It's natural resources is the biggest part of my district. Timber, oil and gas, and farming, and a little bit of cattle ranching. It also has one of the most beautiful natural lakes in anywhere, Caddo Lake. And I got my start grassroots organizing to keep the environmentalists from moving in and taking over Caddo Lake. That was
really?
one of my first movements. Yes, it was to kill what they called the Caddo Lake National Heritage Area,
okay,
which was going to impede on our private property rights after a period of years. So that grassroots organizing is kind of what put me in a position to run for state representative.
Exactly. Well, it's things like that spark your heart sometimes, and you got to fight for your community.
That's right.
Which is one of the things that I always like to talk about on my show is, I love our country. It's why it's named William Wallace for America on my show.
Right.
But it all starts in your community.
You bet.
And the things that you do to fight for in your community,
that's right,
improve your state. And when you improve your state, other states start to go, oh, wow, look at Louisiana, what they're doing.
You know what I say all the time, William, is before we can save the U.S., we got to save Louisiana. Before we can save Louisiana, we got to save our home territory.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what it is about. It's about putting the puzzle together.
Exactly.
I think sometimes we get sidetracked by everything going on in Washington and losing our sight of what we can do in our own town to improve things, our own parish or whatever. I mean, it's local, that's where it starts, just building that foundation. So.
Right, I love that because, like you said, when you build your little fort,
that's right.
When you protect your fort, your community, then what else is going on around you doesn't. Well, it matters,
yeah,
but you work from there.
As a Christian, I look at it as this is my duty, being state representative, and as long as I'm listening to Christ, doing my duty, He'll raise up other men and women across the United States to do their duty.
Right.
I always say it's kind of like, can you imagine if you were in World War II and you had a machine gun nest in front of you and somebody was behind you telling you what was going on all on the Western Front, all in the Eastern Front, in the Pacific, you'd be overwhelmed by that. But as a soldier, that machine gun nest was your duty, and that was enough to worry about.
Right.
And I think that's we as people have got to learn just to concentrate on our duty, what God has sent us to do in that particular day, in that particular place. And I think if we do our duty, in the end of the day, everything's going to be fine.
I love that analogy. That's really good because, like you said, and then of course remembering in your heart, who's leading you in the right way.
You bet.
I like that. So we talked about agriculture, lumber. That's what some of the main products. But what do you do there in?
I'm a small business owner. Operate a small oil and gas business. I've done that my whole life. I've got 45 years of experience in the oil and gas business. So, that's where my heart is. It's out in the country, just working with good, hard-working people. And it's another reason I come to Baton Rouge, because we seem to be thinking that we should kill the fossil fuel industry. And we have the Green New Deal that's coming in, and it can't even provide electricity for us during
cold weather or bad weather.
I say renewable energy, it's kind of like short levees. They work real good most of the time. But when you really need them, they fail you.
Right.
So, but we're pouring billions and billions of federal money into these failed energy sources. If they can compete on the open market without government subsidies, I'm fine. I'm ready. I want to compete. But rigging the game for an energy that's going to fail.
When they're getting subsidized so much that they're getting subsidized more than what they're actually producing, the taxpayers are losing.
That's right. And the federal government's pumping these dollars into it. It's killing the saving ability of the people at retirement. They're having to put their money into risky institutions where they should be drawing, 10% interest, 7% interest on their money, and investing in bonds. They can't get a return on their investment. So it's forcing everybody artificially into the stock market, which is one reason it's going up, because nobody else has. They have to reinvest their money in risky institutions to make a living at their age.
And we talked about environmental, and we talked about about oil and gas companies, but a lot of people don't realize that oil and gas companies are some of the ones that are on the forefront of renewable energy programs.
Sure.
Because they realize that they need to be on the forefront, because when oil and gas is depleted, or when people start going to other methods, they don't want to just be relying on one. They don't want to have their eggs all in one bat, or their oil in one well.
That's right. That's exactly right. We just need to make sure the things we're investing our money in will pay for themselves.
Right.
Without government subsidies. Like I said, as long as they can compete, I'm all for everybody. Nuclear is something that is one of the most competitive energies out there. But the environmental groups have scared the public into being scared of that too. That's a good energy source.
I'm gonna make a plug for a movie that I've watched that on video. I've made this plug before, but I'll recommend it to you. Is you need to see Michael Moore's Planet of the Humans.
Right.
Have you seen this yet?
I haven't. I probably would have intentionally not watched a Michael Moore movie.
If you watch it, your eyes will be opened about the green energy.
Right.
It's amazing because they've banned it a lot on a lot of different platforms.
Okay.
Because it exposes a lot of the environmental things that are not environmental, that the renewable energy things are doing.
Well, and I will say this, in my opinion, all this is they're pumping billions of dollars into these renewable energies, and all of the politicians' buddies are out there with a big bucket catching tens of millions of dollars.
Right.
That's all it's about.
Right.
It's taking wealth away from the citizens of the United States, putting it in special interest pockets. That's, in my opinion, that's what it's mostly about.
And they're using the hearts of some of the people who think it's about the environment.
That's right.
To be able to gain the momentum to get this.
That's right.
And that's what's explained in this movie, The Planet of the Humans.
Okay, well that's a good point then.
You'll really like that. But I'm always surprised. I say I'm not really anymore, but when I talk to people in the oil and gas industry, to find out how much they're actually working on renewable sources, they're actually they're pumping money into it to make it better, so you don't need to have a lot of government funding on it, because they know they need it to survive on their own. So a lot of people, when they're make the oil and gas companies the villains, they're not realizing how much good they're doing for the environment behind the scenes too.
That's right. That's exactly right. And in Louisiana, all our schools are based on. You quit taxing the oil and gas business in Louisiana, we don't have anything. 1 out of every 9 jobs is in the oil and gas business. We're using these renewable energies when Louisiana doesn't have renewable energies.
Right.
It doesn't have the environment for that. So.
And isn't our Constitution our budget's based off of oil and gas?
You bet. That's exactly right.
So we can't shoot our.
Yeah, it's like we're shooting a hole in our own boat, wondering why we're sinking.
Right.
It's crazy.
Well, we're already number 50 right now. The study come out that we're 50 now.
Hopefully they don't get another state in the union, then we'll be battling for 51.
That's a good.
Yeah, we do have intentions of doing something to change that.
So that would be Louisiana maybe wanting another state, so we're not
there
dead,
you go.
dead
That's right.
last.
That's
But
right.
no, we know we don't want that. We know that people like you are
Exactly.
fighting really hard,
You bet.
for our state. And speaking of fighting really hard, and speaking of fiscal, what this next budget or this next session is coming up? What's that one? The main focus on that?
Well, the main focus is everybody sitting around rubbing their hands together, hoping the federal government sends us money so we can bail us out one more time. That's
Yeah.
truly what's happening. There's some talk about if we won't get the federal money if we cut taxes. Now, whether that's going to be true or not, I don't know. But I'll say this: I'm cutting taxes every chance I get, and if we get federal money, fine. If we don't, fine. But we can't sit here and milk our businesses anymore after they've been destroyed by the governor's mandates. That's another thing that's odd to me that people say, COVID-19 has wrecked our economy. COVID-19 didn't make a law.
Right.
It didn't do anything.
Exactly.
It didn't shut down your business.
I love
didn't.
it.
John Bell Edwards did 100% of that. Mm-hmm. Now, you can argue whether he was justified or not, but COVID-19 didn't do it. John Bell Edwards destroyed your business. John Bell Edwards did that.
Created all these mandates and all these shutdowns.
And that's opposite of what this country was based on. It's based on individual liberty. I mean, we live in a constitutional republic, like you very well know.
Yeah.
And in a republic, the rights and the responsibility belong to the individual.
Right.
I mean, if John Bell Edwards can run our lives, make all our decisions better than we can, we live in a communist country now. And it's sad we're this far along and we still have these mandates. Nobody where I live is paying attention to them.
Yeah.
But,
I've gotten to a point where,
Yeah.
But what's ironic, is one, about the government, pumping money in Louisiana. We're waiting to see if they're going to give us money. It's like, it's kind of ironic because they're going to print it, give it to us, but the taxpayers are going to be the ones footing the bill for it, and our children and our grandchildren are going to be footing the bill for it.
And really what they do, they print $1 and give us 10 cents, and then they spend 90 cents on their pet project.
Exactly.
And we're so glad they sent us 10 cents of the 90 cents they stole from our grandkids.
And
I really wonder if one day our grandkids are going to look back and say, where were the men and women with backbone when they were doing this to this country? They said they loved the country. Did they really? That's a good question for us. Do we really?
I love that. You're right.
And I will say that based on one reason I ran for office was because I researched everything we could do to turn this country around. But let it be known that we still have the best system in the world. We just have the wrong people elected to office.
I like to hear that.
If we get the right people elected, we could fight a revolution and come back in this point and couldn't have a better government system set up than what we have. We just need Christian men and women stepping up to the table, running for office, whether that's at in your town or your parish or the state or the national level. We have to have those people. We get good, solid, valued-oriented people in there, we're fine.
People that have that have morals, but people that have the backbone.
That's right. You got to have grit.
You have grit. I like that.
Yeah.
And thinking and have it constitutionally minded. People.
That's right. I'm very liberty-minded, and sometimes I vote for things at the Capitol that I don't think somebody should do. But that's not my right to tell them what they should not do. As long as they're not hurting somebody else or somebody else's property, liberty is a two-way street. Sometimes you have to want liberty, you have to give liberty.
I like that.
Yeah, and so I think it's important that we look at things like that. Always talking about Christ in the Bible, I never say Christ say we should put them in prison. I never say that. See that? Me as a Christian, what I believe is somebody needs Christ. They don't need necessarily prison, as long as they're not hurting me or somebody else's properties.
No, and I love that thought, because it's like you said. If we start fighting about whose freedoms or whose liberties are better or more important or are right or wrong, then the argument's always made that somebody will come take away my liberties or try to take away my freedoms and liberties because they don't like them. So I'm not going to take away theirs, even if I don't like them.
That's right.
Because I don't want to take away mine. But if we all agree on freedom and liberty as just the raw freedom and liberty, then we can fight for each other's freedoms, and our country is going to benefit as a result.
You bet. That's what set this country apart, is the common ordinary man given it the environment to do good. Us as political people, we should just try to create an environment where people are safe and where they can prosper. Instead, we've got this government as God personality.
Right.
And then when we elect these little mini gods to be politicians to tell us what to do. I cannot imagine any free people wanting the governor to tell them what to do, how to run their life, where they can go, when they can open a business. That's not what this country's founded on. And you know, it's important to understand too, I think we as Christians sometimes get confused and say, we were supposed to be a law-abiding people. Well, there's a law there. The law of the land is the U.S. Constitution.
Right.
And it doesn't say anywhere in there that we have to abide by what the governor's edicts are. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to understand that sometimes maybe we need to look at as far as man's law, the U.S. Constitution is the law of the land.
Well, you think about it. I mean, our founding fathers created this wonderful document for us to live by, and they were inspired by God.
Exactly.
And when you look at those two, you know, the free will that we are given, you know, and the freedoms and liberties that the Constitution protects. I mean, that's really all you really need to live by, the most part.
That's right.
You made me think about something I wanted to bring up a minute ago was, you know, I think one of the problems in our country is when they started putting warning labels on everything.
Exactly.
You know, because, you know, it's like that fear technique, you know, kind of the same thing that's happening here in our state.
Exactly.
You know, here's the fear and here's the warning label, and if you don't do this, you know, or you do this, you know, you never know what's going to happen, and before you know it, people are rushing to get their shot, or
that's right.
You know, because they've been scared to death. And even when you tell them, I mean, and again, I had this conversation with Beryl Amity,
right.
By the way, I'm not anti-vaccine.
Sure.
I'm pro doing the reform, pro doing the right thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I'm pro freedom and liberty, because if we have that, people can choose whether the vaccine is right for them or not right for them, and that's their personal choice.
Right.
Whether I agree or disagree.
That's exactly right.
But the fear tactic has so many people running to get it, even though they say it won't keep you from getting it, it won't keep you from spreading it,
and hey,
but the government says go get it.
And the Johnson & Johnson shot has aborted fetal cells in it. You think, you know, pro-life people should be concerned about that. So.
Right. So
you know, I mean, there's so many things here, but you know, and going back to my Christianity too, is we don't have a God of fear. That's not coming. The people are using fear to control us is not being guided by Christ.
Right.
Because I mean, you know, I'm not saying that a Christian can't get COVID-19, and not saying a Christian won't die from COVID-19, but I am saying a Christian should not be living in an element of fear. That's not how we're wired. We have our hope in something else besides this world. So when some people try to intimidate me, it has the opposite reaction.
Right. Yeah. It fires you up.
That's right. Yeah. You know, don't be trying to, you know, treat me, you know, like I'm scared of everything. That doesn't make me happy.
Yeah, because you're not scared, because you know who's behind you.
You bet.
Behind you, in front of you, above you, you know.
That's right.
You know,
that's
and
exactly right.
And while, you know, we have to be concerned, I always tell people about, you know, don't be fearful, be
Right.
concerned, you know, just practicing some good habits.
And make your own choices, you know, make your own decisions about what you want to do. If you want to wear a mask, I support you 100%. If you don't want to wear a mask, I support you 100%. That's what liberty is about.
I like that.
If you want to stay home, hey, I don't have a problem with it. But why do you want to make everybody else stay home?
Yeah.
I mean, we are bankrupting the greatest country on earth.
Out of fear.
Out of fear. And then now we see what we got going on in Washington. Like, we're just going to print money and pour it into everything that our special interest groups, you know, it's crazy. I mean, we're not from fearful men. We didn't come from
Right.
fearful men. And be bold. You know,
it amazes me that how everybody, you know, they keep saying, well, this is for COVID relief, this $2 trillion that your great grandchildren will be paying. By the way, is, you know, they keep saying that, you know, this is for COVID, when less than 1% or was it 5% of it is actually COVID related, but yet everybody keeps saying it's for COVID. And I said, well, no, the proof is out there that most of it's not for COVID.
That's exactly right. I mean, they're just on the spending spree.
Right.
That's it.
And this and by the way, as I've said before, my program too, is that, you know, that the spending is another attack on our freedoms and liberties.
You bet.
When a government and elected officials are spending our money, I mean, they're not even spending our money, they're printing the money, they're basically signing a loan and saying, this is for you, you're going to pay it, your children are going to pay it. In a generation, 2 generations, like you said, what our children are going to ask us, we got to wonder, they're the ones that's be paying this.
That's right.
And their freedoms and liberties will be under attack, because the only way to get people to pay back that much money is to control what they do, when they do, how much they do it, and their productivity, and that's what we have to worry about.
And there's nothing worse than a government that's going broke. They're like a crazy animal.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll reach and grab and do anything. They'll go to war. They do whatever they can to stay in power. So not only will they be printing that money for our kids, they'll be trying to send them to war too, to get our minds off of it.
Right. Exactly. Well, because if you send them to war, that's a whole other economy that that the government can create.
That's
and
exactly
by the
right.
way, when government creates economies, I hate doing the air quotes, but they're not creating real money. They're creating, it's one of those printed money things.
When it's kind of like this, think about this. If I go do something to provide a service to you, and you pay me $50, well, you have a service. Well, they just print $50. So now they're making your work not valuable anymore.
Right.
It has no value because they're just printing it. A dollar bill is really not worth nothing if it doesn't have the faith of the people that are taking it. Why would you take a dollar bill? I mean, I don't know why. I can't believe people still have faith in it. And when the dollar goes down, it's going to be the whole world's going to suffer, just not the United States. So it's going to be, we got the day of reckoning if we don't get a hold of this, and that's why I run for office.
And I appreciate that, because we need people like you fighting for our state. Which, by the way, coming back to Louisiana, how bad is our state doing fiscally?
Well, it's hard to tell. Somewhere between $500 million to $1 billion shortfall is what we're looking at. So
how will we find out how much? Or
well, hopefully those numbers will be coming shortly. We don't know for sure yet, but they're government produced numbers too, so you got to be careful with that.
Right.
But the question is, where would our state been if they hadn't pumped all these billions of dollars in here? They've replaced the governor, by shutting down the state, has replaced productive businesses with printed money. So, I mean, you're still, even though they're saying the receipts aren't down that bad, well, yeah, because you've been pumping money into the economy, and people have been going to spend it on things, but they're not working. They're not creating wealth.
right.
So it's once they quit, if they ever quit, pouring money into the economy again, we'll really see what kind of shape the state's in.
But not to mention all the states around us. I mean,
That's
of course,
correct.
Texas believes in freedom and liberty.
A little bit.
Yeah,
I mean, they just opened up.
Yeah, exactly. But
The governor of Texas is not getting kudos from me.
right. Okay. We'll talk about that one later.
There you go.
But I guess everybody points to Texas as being doing so well.
Exactly.
And that was kind of the reason I bring that up. But,
Exactly.
But that's the thing. If we keep on printing and not having, it's no different than an individual homeowner. If they continue to borrow the money to pay their bills, eventually, it comes due.
Even better than that, it may be like a drug addict. It just takes more and more to get high every time.
Right.
And that's where the federal government is. The next bailout's got to be bigger than the last one, because people are becoming addicted to this.
So what worries you the most? I mean, obviously we've kind of talked about this like that. What worries you the most? Is it not knowing how much we're going to be in debt, or not knowing the numbers yet, or is it not knowing how we're going to pay for it, or is the rug going to be pulled out from underneath us?
What worries me the most, if we're going to get these federal dollars, which is one-time money, and pour them into reoccurring expenses, that's going to cause the budget to go up. And when these one-time dollars go, and we've increased reoccurring expenses, we're in trouble. I mean,
are there any examples of what these one-time these things that recurring expenses?
Well, like for instance, reoccurring expenses would be all the public pay raises that the governor's talking about getting, all the different expansion of programs. Now, what we would like to do is we would take these one-time money and put them into infrastructure programs like broadband. Broadband is the number one thing you can invest your money in Louisiana and get return on your dollar, even more than roads and bridges, which need it too.
Yeah.
I mean, but we could take, if we were smart, we'd take this one-time money, not grow government, and put it into one-time projects like broadband and like roads and bridges. And then we have something.
So one-time money is going to be used for one-time projects.
That's right. It sounds simple, doesn't it?
It does sound simple.
It's not.
Because there's a lot of guys who go, no,
No, exactly.
yeah, we need more jobs.
That's
you
right.
know,
That's-
and everybody goes, yeah, more jobs.
Exactly.
So let's print more money. We're gonna create more jobs that don't produce any income.
That's right.
And then
That's exactly right. It only makes sense in Baton Rouge. You know what I'm saying?
so there's going to be a huge fight in the Capitol this year between
Yes.
people who, basically are rubbing their hands for the money.
You bet.
And people that are saying, no, we can't do this.
Yeah, exactly. There'll be a fight, and then they'll start peeling you off. They'll start promising people pet projects, and they'll start peeling them off. But hopefully there'll be enough of us conservative Republicans left to hold the line to protect the people, because
That's what it comes down to.
I do want to say this. I do want to encourage the people back home. I want to encourage them and let them know that we are fighting hard for them down here in Baton Rouge.
I like that.
For all from my motto is starve the beast. I mean, Baton Rouge.
Ah,
is a
you heard
beast.
that. I like that.
Yeah, I mean,
the
it's a
beast
beast.
being government.
But the beast being government, that's right. And the more you starve him, take away his money, the less damage he can do. And so, I mean, that's my motto. And try to give the liberties back to people. That's why I'm running my constitutional carry bill this year.
We're going to talk about that here in a second. I like that. I absolutely like that. But starving the beast because, like I said, because that way So a lot of people don't realize that how, like you said, the districts aren't huge. Sometimes they're bigger land mass.
That's right.
But it's easy to call a state rep.
Right.
It's easy to be in touch with their office if they don't.
bet.
All you got to do is find out, what the spending bills are, how much they're talking about, and you can do that on the Louisiana legislature site. You could go
That's right.
online, find out what's coming through, and if you see a tax that you don't like, you can find out who's promoting it, and you can say, no, I don't want this tax, or I don't want this new government, job created.
I don't want any taxes, so we're pretty simple. I'm the simple guy there.
I like that. I like that. But let's talk about your legislation when it comes to freedoms and liberties.
Yeah,
You've got one big one.
Yeah, one big one is my constitutional carry bill. You may find this odd, William, but knocking on my doors in rural area of Caddo and Bossier Parish, the number one asked question is, will you sponsor a constitutional carry bill? And my answer was, you bet, no doubt. And sometimes they were aggravated about having to pay to get a right back that was given to them by the U.S. Constitution and confirmed in the Louisiana Constitution.
Right.
But the other thing is, hey, I've spent all this money and I can't get a permit back from the state of Louisiana. It takes forever to get a concealed carry permit back.
Yeah.
And that's the way it started off. And then the next question would be, why do we even need these permits? And I guess we got to try to feed the beast is the only thing, and so that was the number one asked question. And I'm from a rural area. We love our Second Amendment, and the government has no right taking something given us as we know, given us to us by God, and then selling this back to us. I have a lot of people say, in a constitutional carry bill, what my bill does, if you're 18 years of age or older, you can conceal carry in Louisiana if you're legal, if you're not a felon or different things. And what most people don't know, in Louisiana, already if you're 18 years of older, you can open carry. So let me tell you this scenario. I've got 4 granddaughters. One of them my oldest is 8 years old. She's killed her first deer when she was 7. So when she gets to be 18, she's going to be quite proficient with a weapon.
Right.
Well, she's going to leave the home, be the most vulnerable as she will be in her life to be attacked or have something negative happen to her. Mm-hmm. Now she can carry a pistol, she can dress up and put a pistol on her side, and that's legal. But if she takes that pistol and puts it in her purse, she's a felon in Louisiana now. Does that make any sense to you?
Not at all.
I mean, so why would we take, in my case, and I say my daughters have grandsons too, but we're as men, we're more worried about our daughters being attacked than our sons.
Exactly.
So why does Louisiana not allow our daughters to put a pistol in their purse to protect themselves?
Exactly.
And that's really passionate to me. What's important for your viewers to know is in Louisiana, there's already 18 states that have constitutional carry. Out of those 18 states, half of them are 18 years of older. Some of them the other half are 21 and older. 2 more states looking at being constitutional carry states. 2 of the states that are 18 years of age and older are Arkansas and Mississippi. You know, it's working. There's
Yeah.
no reason for Louisiana not to give us our constitutional
And
rights
are
back.
crime rates lower in states that have constitutional carry?
They seem to always be lower in those states, which makes sense. doesn't
Exactly.
it? I mean, you know, if the good guy's got a gun, boy, you need to worry about him. But
Well,
if
the
they
other thing
don't,
too is criminals, if they know, you know, and word gets out.
You bet.
You know, they're going to know that, hey, you know, this, you know, this, you know, they don't know who's carrying a weapon and who's not carrying a
That's
weapon.
exactly right.
They're going to be less inclined to carjack somebody
bet.
or to, you know, rob somebody because
bet.
they don't know who's going to have, you know, who's going to have a weapon.
that's exactly right. And you know, and there's 2 more states that are actually working on
Yeah.
a bill right now that
Right.
will do the same thing, do constitutional carry in those 2 states. So we're working that direction.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it's a great bill because, you know, when you have a law on the book like that, you know, not only will more people be able to protect themselves, but and now will crime go lower. But we talked about that there's some people in inner cities
That's what's so horrible about it.
Yeah, that
mean,
minorities or poor people will
Exactly.
be able to find ways to protect themselves legally.
Now, let me tell you this, William. Now think about this. In Louisiana, we have people talking about criminal justice reform all the time. But these same people are the ones that don't want to give you your gun rights back. So let's say there's a young minority standing on the corner somewhere, and he's 18, he's not a felon, and he's put a pistol in his pocket because he's scared somebody may harm him. Mm-hmm. Well, under my bill, he's not a criminal. The people that are worried about criminal justice reform, he goes to prison. You know, I mean,
Yeah, makes zero sense.
it makes 0 sense. I tell them all the time, I said, you know, you create laws that send people to prison, and then you're shocked and appalled we have so many people in prison. I mean, it don't you
Makes
know,
0 sense.
I mean, let's just not send honest people to prison. Let's start there instead of letting murderers and rapists out earlier.
Right.
Why don't we just not make criminals out honest people?
And it's all those little simple, little tiny little laws, you know, that create that make, you know, good people into criminals.
You bet.
You know, that are not only an infringement on our freedoms and liberties.
You bet.
You know, but they create more government red tape, using up our tax money more.
That's right.
Which you know takes money out of our tax dollars.
Exactly.
So it's a vicious circle.
I agree.
When you
but
look at it like that.
I do want to tell your listeners this, though, too. The permitting system will still be in place in Louisiana. We're not doing away with the permitting system. And the reason for that is that we have reciprocity with other states like Texas. So if I
Okay.
have a concealed carry permit in Louisiana, I can carry in Texas also.
Okay.
So it doesn't do away with the concealed carry permit process. So, you know, if somebody likes to get one, they can still get it. You know, I mean, there's it doesn't.
So that means that if they have a concealed carry, they have reciprocity for other states, but they can still conceal carry in Louisiana without a concealed carry license if this bill passes.
Yeah, if this bill passes, if somebody doesn't have a concealed carry permit and they're 18 years of age and older and not a felon, they will be able to conceal carry in Louisiana. But they won't be able to conceal carry without a permit in Texas. So that's when we leave the permitting process in place.
That's smart.
Yeah,
that's
right.
That's well thought out.
That's right, and that's been in the past. They brought constitutional carry bills, but it did away with the permitting system, and that's a problem because a lot of people want that permit for different reasons, really.
Is there anything else in this bill? Now it's this is before the committees.
Right.
So when it goes to committees, you know, they might try to add a whole bunch of other little exemptions in there.
And we're not looking to have a watered down bill. The last thing I want to do is go into committee and they put all these restrictions on it that the ordinary person's not going to know about. You know, and that's the way of killing good legislation is make it so complicated that everybody goes, hey, I don't want a constitutional carry because I can't keep up with all the laws and all the amendments you have.
Right, exactly.
So I want the people just to be free to carry.
Yeah.
You know, I had somebody say, well, we need to put an amendment on there that makes it a crime if a police officer stops you and you don't tell them you have a weapon. I said, instead of making it a crime, why don't we just teach the police officer, say, hey, do you have a weapon on you?
That's
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, he's trained to do that.
Right.
I mean, he needs to assume that anyhow.
And you know, one thing that I've learned, and this is something that go along with this bill, is that when you create a culture of knowledge, okay,
Right.
you know, that I learned, you know, when you go through a gun class or any kind of training class, I've learned that it's learning about responsibility.
You bet.
It's learning
Personal
about
responsibility.
personal responsibility. And that when you learn that sense of personal responsibility, so in this, if this legislation passes, we can also create more of an environment of, here's some educational material on how to be responsible. So when a
You
police
bet.
officer says, "Do you have a weapon?" you teach those people to not be afraid and say, "Yes, I do. It's in my glove box. It's in my
That's right.
pocket or whatever."
And another argument they say is that if police officers pulling over a car and they call in the license plate, they'll know if that permit holder has a pistol. May have a pistol.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing is, how do they know the permit holder driving the car? And in Louisiana, your vehicle is an extension of your home, so everybody, even without a concealed carry permit, can legally have a gun in their vehicle.
Right.
So I mean, their argument's mute. It doesn't hold water, so to speak, when it comes to that.
I like this. This sounds like a good, solid,
Common sense bill.
common sense, simple.
And don't complicate it with a bunch of amendments that's going to make it so hard that a law-abiding citizen will be a criminal.
I'll be in this committee.
That's great.
I'm
That's
gonna be
great.
sitting in on this committee.
That's good.
Well, you have another piece of legislation that you want to talk about.
I do have a religious liberty bill, and basically I was shocked and appalled when Governor Edwards would think that we should be able to put preachers in jail for having church. I mean, that's astounding to me. And even in a pandemic, I don't have any problem with the governor giving his suggestions, but calling my God non-essential is kind of the I got a problem with that.
He kind of brought everybody through this.
Exactly, that's right. I mean, if we need God, it's in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you what, that's just that's a real big rock in my crawl right there. I'm telling you what, I don't calling the God non-essential and
Right.
and telling the church what you can do. That's the First Amendment. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
exactly right.
And if they can shut down our churches, they can tell you. Maybe next time they'll sell you a permit for your speech. Maybe they need to teach
Yeah.
you how to speak and sell you that permit. There's no limit to what they can do if they take away our ability to assemble.
And what's amazing, to me is that as much fear has been injected, about this, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there's not a pandemic
Sure.
or there's not a virus going around.
You bet.
We could argue that versus the flu results and everything all day long.
Right.
But the reality is that it never should have been a shutdown.
That's right.
It should have been more of even if it's a fearful suggestion, even if it's, hey, everybody should wear a mask.
Yeah.
And you leave it to the businesses to make their decisions whether they want to choose a mask. Leave it up to the people in the public whether they want to wear a mask or go someplace that doesn't require a mask. And when you really promote those freedoms and liberties,
That's right.
that's what our country's about.
You can say John Bell Edwards didn't trust you with your freedoms, that it was better for him to make a decision about what you should do and shouldn't do. To me, I can't believe free people are taking that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really, really aggravating to me that he thinks he can get away with that. And back to what you were saying, we weren't in this thing 30 days until we figured out that if it's 60 and over or somebody with underlying conditions,
Right.
by far were the most vulnerable. What if we'd said, hey guys, we've identified the groups here we need to protect. Nursing homes are at risk.
Right.
We need to protect them. The elderly are at risk. How about we just let the young people that want to go to work, go
Right.
to work? And instead we decided, like I said, to destroy the greatest economy on earth. And I will tell you, William, I said poverty kills more people than anything in this
That's
world.
a great point.
Exactly.
That's a great point.
Poverty kills people, and that's what we're setting ourselves up for, and that's a concern to me.
So what does your legislation on religious freedoms do? What is that?
Basically, it's just like this. If the church wants to open, they can. If they don't want to open, they don't have to. It's just like anything else. They get to make their own decisions.
I'm exaggerating, scratching my head, but isn't this the First Amendment?
And actually, what my
constitutional?
legislation actually does, it just says that we believe that the U.S. Constitution and the Louisiana State Constitution allow us the right to assemble, and even in a pandemic.
Right.
We think John Bell Edwards is the one breaking the law. We don't think the pastors having church are breaking the law.
Because the founding fathers in the First Amendment, I don't remember seeing an asterisk
No.
The First Amendment that when you go to the bottom says except for a pandemic or if a politician says you can't do it.
Exactly. That's
Okay.
right. I mean, and the kicker is, the truth of the matter is about most politicians, they have hard enough time running their own life. You don't need them running yours. I mean, they're just. I mean,
And our founding fathers, when they created the First Amendment, basically they were doing this to protect people from government.
that's right. I mean,
And so now government shut this down in a violation of the First Amendment. So your bill it will basically say that if people want to go to church, they go to church. If a church wants to open, they can open.
And what we say is that's the way it is right now. I'm not creating a law. This bill says this is already the law.
Right.
I mean, that's basically what it's saying. Sad thing about it, though, I run it last special session, my religious liberty bill, and it failed. It went to Judiciary B and failed. The Republicans had a Republican in there that voted against it to kill my bill. And somebody said and I'm going to call his name, somebody said he's a Christian. I said, don't.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. That's
It almost makes you wonder, and I'm going to talk about the process for just 1 second, is that somebody whispers in their ear and says, hey, I don't want you to vote for this because of this.
No, this is what happened. John Bell Edwards says, hey, you kill his bill and I'll give you this because he's going to make me look bad if this bill passes. That's what happens. And they're willing to sell their soul for 30 pieces of silver. There you go.
And when the reality is, it's basically basically willingly giving away your freedom and liberty.
That's right.
And it goes back to personal responsibility.
You bet.
If a business wants to open, if a church wants to open, people want to go to it, don't want to go to it. People let the people make their own decisions.
They'll by far make the better decisions than the government.
Because now not only have you created an environment of fear, but you've taken away people's way to make money, way to worship, way to live their lives, and it goes back to what you said before. One of the best ways was it that fear or the lack of being able to make money is one of the best ways. Or
well,
you said it better than I just did. So.
Well, another way of saying this is fear is contagious, but so is courage. So be courageous. I think that's the best way of saying it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, Danny, I cannot thank you enough for coming on today. Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Let me plug my website.
Okay.
You can go to McCormick, 4la.com. You can sign our petition. You can get our email alerts. You can go there to find out what's going on in Baton Rouge. We'd love to have you, and we appreciate you watching this video.
So somebody go on your website there at McCormick for Louisiana.
McCormick, 4la.com.
And then go on there, sign the petition, so when you go in for this bill for either religious liberties or the constitutional carry, that you can say, hey, I've got X number of people that have signed this.
Exactly, that's exactly right.
Spread that word, everybody,
right.
And I'll put that in the post too.
Good.
Down there. Danny, thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Everybody else, please share the video. Let everybody know about what we talked about today. Talk about freedoms and liberties. Sometimes, you got to put fear aside, to be able to retain your freedom and liberty. And that's what we've talked about here. Share the video with friends and let people know about this. And most of all, like I said, keep on talking about freedom and liberty and keep an eye on this guy because he's fighting for your freedoms and liberties.
We love you. God bless you.